One of the biggest fears for cancer survivors is the fear of relapse. That means cancer recurring once again. Hence why many cancer survivors are asked to go for regular checkups. Like for me, at the beginning, it was once every 6 months, and then we moved on to once a year. But I still go for regular colonoscopies and blood checks. So this is very specific to the type of cancer that person is having. But we are always very vigilant about cancer recurrence. Although we may look fine on the outside, but you will never know what a cancer survivor faces emotionally, physically, and mentally.
Why has it been a challenging 1 year for you?
So towards the end of 2019, moving on to 2020, I actually post on my social media that it has been a challenging half a year for me towards the end of 2019 specifically. So actually now it has been 1 year since then, and I feel ready in a way to share my story. Earlier I mentioned that although cancer survivors, we look fine on the outside, we are fine on the outside, but we don't know what actually goes on physically, emotionally, and mentally. I think for me, that was the case. So let's rewind a little bit. Ben is my husband, and as of today, we have been married for almost 4 years. So as of middle of 2019, we've been married 3 years to be exact. So there were a lot of questions from family, from friends, when are you gonna have a child? I would love to answer that question, but what happened to me for the past year actually was related to fertility. So at the beginning of our marriage, I asked my doctors, can I get pregnant? Because, I used to have cancer. And they were like, oh, no problem at all. So I only seek consultation from my gynae at that point of time. And she told me, oh, you have your regular periods. Every month it's so regular, so there shouldn't be any problems with having a child. So for Ben and I, we wanted to relax a little bit for the first 1.5 years, so we chilled and we didn't try too hard. Moving on to the second year, we wanted to have a child already. So we tried for about 6 months plus to 8 months, and we still didn't get a child, right? So I went back to my gynae and she said, oh, through the ultrasound from the outside, she was like, everything looks great. I was like, oh, that's great, so we will continue to try naturally. As of beginning of 2019, I was still trying. That time we started trying even harder, yet nothing happened. So nothing was amiss when it came to my periods. As I said, it was so regular. Then in June, I had my period, but it came for 11 days. So I went back to my gynae and I told her, hey, is something wrong? I've been having period for 11 days. And she was like, oh, maybe it's just stress. And through the ultrasound, which was done from the outside, everything is fine. So in my mind, I was like, oh, okay, then I guess nothing is wrong. But she's like, maybe you can go to a fertility doctor and maybe get tested for Ben. And that's why we went to see a fertility doctor, and he tested and I tested as well. When I was tested, the fertility doctor actually found a polyp in my uterus. He was like, oh, there is this grey thing in your uterus. I think it's a polyp. He said it's okay, you don't have to take it out because it usually doesn't bother a lot of people. And at that point of time, I haven't told him about my 11 days of period yet. And Ben's side was fine. So a month later, I had my period again. Of course, regular, right? And this time it was for 30 days. Imagine having your period for 30 days. So this time I didn't go back to my gynae. I went to my fertility doctor and I told him. And then he was like, I think maybe the polyp is actually bothering you. So he passed me on to his colleague, which is also a fertility and a gynae as well. He specialized in doing surgical procedures for gynecology-related matters. So when I saw him, he was like, okay, let's just snip off the polyp and then you can seriously try. I was like, all right, okay, let's do it. And he's like, maybe it could be preventing a pregnancy. I was like, okay, let's do it. Actually, it was in August last year after my diagnosis of the polyp that I went for my first surgery to get the polyp removed. After the surgery, I remembered my doctor telling me, "Oh, it looks fine. It went well, the surgery went well." I was like, okay, great. Last half of 2019 was a very busy period for me. So going into surgery was something that, I just wanted to get it done with. So I came out of the hospital, he's like, come and see him in 3 weeks' time. Actually, I didn't go back to see him because I was really, really busy. Because I was so busy, I forgot after 3 weeks. And after 3.5 weeks, he actually called me instead. He said, "Why haven't you come to see me?" I was like, "Oh, because I've been so busy, I'll come soon." He's like, "Nope, come this Saturday." I was like, okay. Then he's like, "Well, I just need you to take some medication." I was like, okay, sure. And at that point of time, nothing came to my mind. Usually when a doctor calls you, something is wrong. But for me, I was so busy and I guess I was a bit too chilled. I didn't think of anything. I was just thinking he just wants to see me and get me eat some medication. Maybe, there is something that needs to be fixed. So I went to see him on that day with my mom. So he sat me down and he said, the polyp is removed, but we found something. I was like, what do you mean? Then he was like, it's a condition called hyperplasia atypia. And at that point of time when he said that, how am I supposed to know what all these jargons are? I mean, would you know? I don't know. And then he went on about how hyperplasia atypia is, which is something about estrogen levels being very high, but I don't excrete enough progesterone, hence why my uterus has very thick walls. And I was like, okay, that's fine, whatever. And then he came to the point where, oh yeah, but the severe kind, you might have to remove your uterus. I think that kind of hit me like really hard because I was like, what? What do you mean by that? From just a condition to removing my uterus. And then I just asked him, I said, is this a precancerous condition? And he was like, yeah, and it's very rare for people like you because you have very regular periods. I was like, yes. And he said it usually happens to menopausal women. I guess when he said that, I started bawling my eyes out because I know what people say precancerous condition, it's nothing. But at that point of time, from a precancerous condition to possibly removing my uterus and not having a child, I think that was a very huge blow to me. And I think he himself didn't know how to handle it because he also didn't expect it to be that way, the results coming out like that. And it was actually quite funny because he started giving me tissue and he's like, don't cry. And I was like, I cannot stop crying because I possibly cannot have a child, right? He said, don't worry, we can try to fix it. So I was like, all right, how do we fix it? So you have to go on hormone replacement therapy, which is basically hormones to either balance out, things in your body, which I was fine with. I just wanted to preserve my uterus so I can have a child, right? And he said, you need to take it for 3 months and we need to do this invasive procedure, which is similar to the surgery again. I was like, all right, okay, let's do this. But, I was actually uncontrollably sobbing. I felt so bad for the doctor. And I thank him for being so patient with me. So I started HRT, in short for hormone replacement therapy. And I guess I didn't expect the side effects of what it would do to my body. I felt like vomiting every single day and I felt really tired. So those were some of the side effects. And it was also that point of time I was traveling in and out of the country 2 or 3 times a month or traveling interstate, either for work, for speaking, for trips. I wish I didn't have so much travel at that point of time, but I did. So it was hiding that from people I was meeting, dealing with the issues, and also traveling at the same time. After the end of the 3 months, I was actually amazed by how I handled it. how I could have actually gone through it, feeling sick every day and still look okay. I felt the need to be really, really positive. If not, I couldn't continue what I was going to do every day. And yeah, so that was the first phase of it. After 3 months of hormone replacement therapy, I went for the procedure again in January this year. And the doctor said that it was good. You know, the hyperplasia atypia has sort of gone away, but we don't know when it will recur again. And he again mentioned, maybe you would need to remove your uterus after you have a child. I have not crossed that bridge yet, but he said the first thing you need to do is have a child. So how am I going to have a child? He said you need to do IVF. I was like, all right. During the entire MCO period, I was also in and out of the hospital because I was going through IVF, and that is another tedious process because you need to inject hormones into your body instead of eating them. After that, it's the implantation process, after doing the IVF treatment to harvest eggs. And the past few months, I suddenly had electrolyte imbalance. I really don't know how that happened. My sodium was extremely low, my potassium very high, and my urea was very low. A lot of havoc in my body, I guess. Having to withdraw blood all the time, going to the hospital. I think for the past 1 year, I've gone through 2 surgeries and 3 procedures and numerous blood draws. So it has been 1 year since I found out, since actually having my period for 30 days and found out what I actually had, that has stopped me from actually having a child. It hasn't been an easy process, but I want to tell all of you out there to listen to your body and to not take it for granted. I think sometimes maybe I do that. I do take my body for granted. Because I think I'm eating healthy, I'm living a very healthy life, but I think I should listen to it even more now because I definitely want to have a child. And after having cancer, the first time, hopefully never again, and after experiencing hyperplasia atypia and what I experienced over the past year, it has been very trying, very, very challenging. But it has also helped me grow even more the past 1 year because the things that I went through physically, mentally and emotionally, I surprised myself because I actually went through it with a smile on my face. I continue to smile. I continue to try to inspire young cancer survivors out there. And more importantly, I also lead a social media strategy and management company. So being strong is not an if, it's actually a must. I don't think I felt shocked because I think I was too chilled, and when my doctor told me what he had to tell me scientifically, that was the toughest part when he said that you possibly have to remove your uterus. If you don't, this could progress into endometrial cancer. It was that word, I think that, like I said, one of the biggest fears that cancer survivors have is the fear of cancer relapse. And that possibility is such a huge possibility. And the worst part is, it's in another part of my body. So of course, I cried like crazy in front of him, and he himself really truly didn't know how to react. And I just couldn't stop crying. I think my mom, she felt so sad for me. The thing is, I wasn't angry. I just felt frustrated. Even until today, because I keep going to the hospital, I feel very frustrated. I have to go through things like that. But the frustration lasts for only a couple of minutes. I'll cry, and then after that, I get back up and I do things like normal. So I'll always venture into each day with bright eyes and bushy tail, and I'm very excited about every day because I'm here to live every second of it. So with the electrolytes issue fixed and IVF happening during the MCO, and now that's almost complete, I do hope to have a child soon, 1 or 2, and I'm not sure about what happens after that, but baby steps, take 1 step at a time. Fix the issue and then get the baby, and still live a full and very happy life every day, being excited about each day when I wake up to it. So I think that is what the future holds for me, and also to continue to advocate health and cancer awareness to everyone. Like I said, I cannot stress how important our health is to all of us. I mean, especially for the youth out there, please don't take it for granted. Be grateful that we are able to exercise. Be grateful that we get to eat the things that we get to eat. Like when I was going through HRT, I couldn't eat anything because I just felt like throwing everything up. The only thing I could eat was kimchi. Seriously. So let's live every day like it's in a way our last day, because we should appreciate every second that we have.